All right, Subcommittee on Health Education, Subcommittee on Health will come to order. Call the roll.
Senator Suderline?
Yes.
Senator Donovan?
Yes.
Senator Barker?
Here.
Senator Saslaw? Senator Lewis?
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. All right, we've got obviously a very robust docket today, and we've got a lot of bills in committee. So we've got to try and go through all of them, and then hopefully not have many carryovers, although Senator Locke has asked that her Senate Bill 1439 go by for the week. So without objection, we'll put that on next week's docket. First up on our sign-up sheet is Senator Cosgrove with Senate Bill 925. You've got two, yes? You want to do the other one first? That's fine.
That would be Senate Bill 1234.
How'd you swing that?
So, Mr. Chairman, let me tell you a little bit about the bill. What this bill does is it sets up a pilot program using a cutting-edge technology that's currently being used by members of the military and others to treat traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress syndrome. It is called cranial stimulation, neurostimulation, and basically it looks like a big headband with a little box on it. But it stimulates the brain areas that are associated with PTSD and TBI. We have somebody here who is very knowledgeable about the process, and he would like to hear from him.
Sure thing. Yep, sure thing.
Thank you.
Yep. Mr. Chairman and the committee, thank you for having me today. My name is Brandon Solo. I'm a resident of Virginia Beach, Virginia. Thank you for spending time. I know time is limited, so I'll be quick. Just a little background. I was medically retired from 1st Ranger Battalion in 2011 for combat injuries and illnesses. I was hired by SOCOM to develop the Wounded, Ill, Injured, and Performance platform for the Navy SEALs there in Virginia Beach, our tiered unit. And my job was to find technologies that would help with the suicide epidemic, the PTSD issue, the loss of traumatic brain injuries, and the opioid issues we were dealing with. We found a treatment in 2014 called Wave Neuroscience, where we started sending our most severe SEALs out to California, and it helped decrease our suicides, our PTSD, our TBI. We sent 12 guys with incredible results. Moving forward, we have currently 102 machines out in the country right now. There was a bill passed last year or last cycle with Ohio with Senator Hoagland with full bipartisan support for veterans, first responders, the Department of Corrections, and for opioids to treat the people up in Ohio utilizing this technology. We're currently being utilized right now by the Special Operations community to treat our active duty service members and the National Guard. So what I'm asking today is that we get support to move this forward because Virginia has the highest per capita of active duty service members and veterans. It's a very veteran-friendly state. I know we have some issues out in the West and up in Northern Virginia with opioids, and we have a treatment right now that's being utilized that can answer a lot of these issues based on what the government of Virginia wants to do in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, you heard about the efficacy of this technology. This is a proven technology. They actually have a facility right outside of the gates of NAS Oceana on Bells Road where they are applying this technology to some of our folks, and they've had extraordinary results. All this bill does is it sets up a pilot program so that Virginia can support this particular type of aid for those who most need it, which are our returning active duty members and veterans. That being said, also there is a great deal of evidence that this helps with opioid addiction to get rid of that. There's even research being done about the efficacy on autism using the same technology. So that's the bill. I have put in a budget amendment, so even if it's passed, it would have to go to finance.
Yeah, okay. All right, any questions from the subcommittee for Senator Cosgrove?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Suderline.
Could Senator Cosgrove tell us a little more about the budget amendment so I understand what that
Yes.
part of it is?
The budget amendment is for $12 million. All right, it's over that fiscal year. Basically, this this $12 million is going to help to acquire the technology and the people that will apply this technology to our veterans and active duty military.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any other questions for Senator Cosgrove? Is there anybody else here to speak in favor of 1234? Anybody else? Anybody possibly, conceivably, to speak against Senate Bill 1234?
That's my next bit.
Chairman, would you like a motion?
Sure.
I think that I move that the subcommittee recommend that the Education and Health Committee report this bill and then re-refer it to Senate Finance.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that Senate Bill 1234 be recommended for reporting and re-referral to Finance. All in favor, let's call the roll.
Senator Suderline,
Yes.
Senator Donovan,
Yes.
Senator Barker,
Aye.
Senator Saslaw,
Aye by proxy.
Senator Lewis.
Aye.
Ayes 5, noes 0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
That was the easy part.
You've got another.
I do. We have Senate Bill 925.
Hope you felt good after that first one.
I did. I knocked it out of the park in ag and this one now, so yeah, it's been a good day. Basically, this bill, Mr. Chairman, will require hospitals, nursing homes, and certified nursing facilities to allow patients to receive visits from their clergy members. During the pandemic, there were many times when folks of different faiths were not allowed to have their clergy members present, especially those who would administer the last sacraments to those who are Roman Catholic or other rites of their faith. I believe there is a substitute that the committee would have to adopt, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we adopt the substitute.
Second.
Moved and seconded, we adopt the substitute. All in favor, aye. Aye. Substitute's in front of us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I said, this bill would require hospitals to allow clergy members to come in to minister to the patients that are in the hospital, that want clergy to come in to see them. The bill has been drastically changed in its form. We've listened to the trial lawyers. We've listened to hospitals. We made a good number of changes. There are people who can speak more intelligently to this bill since they drafted most of it. So if you'd like to hear from them,
Sure.
that would probably be a good thing.
Anybody in particular, or you just want?
Yes. We have somebody from, there we go. Please.
Yes, ma'am. Come on up and state your name. And
Hello, Senators. Christine Johnson with the Office of Attorney General, Office of Civil Rights. I have a background with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission as well. We view this bill as a patient's rights bill. It gives patients a cause of action if their rights are violated, and they can seek injunctive and declaratory relief. There's an attorney's fees. There's no compensatory damages given to the patients, but they can seek to have the hospital correct their actions and give a recourse if the hospitals do not allow the patients to see their clergy.
okay. Are there any questions from the subcommittee at this point?
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it's been said by some that maybe Senator, now Congresswoman Kagan's bill from last year addressed this. The problem is it doesn't really, because there's no enforcement action. There's no hammer with that. Basically, we tell them the hospitals to do this, but they can or can't. It's really, there's nothing to make them do that. So I'm sure there are a lot of people who want to speak to this.
Anybody else to speak in favor of 925?
Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee, Jeff Caruso with the Virginia Catholic Conference. We support the bill. We agree with the patrons' conclusions and thank them for introducing the legislation. The piece that's of particular interest to us is that it would favor more instances of in-person visitation, and that's especially important to our clergy and the people they minister to, especially in an end-of-life situation. Some of our sacraments require an in-person visitation from the clergy. So because of our sacraments at the end of life, especially, we would urge support for this legislation as an important measure of religious liberty. Thank you.
All right, anyone else in favor?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the subcommittee. Steve Rossi with the Family Foundation, and we support the bill too. SB 925 will restore and protect First Amendment rights of all clergy from any religious faith during periods of public health emergencies, allowing them with certain safeguards to attend their ministerial duty to provide comfort and spiritual strength during very trying and anxious times. It's well known that these moments of counseling are beneficial to patients, the patient's will and mentality. In our view, the bill is akin, in a way, to the bipartisan bill which removed the mandate for masks in schools, and this affects a much smaller number of people. So we hope it'll be the pleasure of the subcommittee to recommend reporting SB 925. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody against 925? What a surprise.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Brent Rawlings, Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association, and we are opposed to the legislation, and just kind of break it down for you, three main areas that create a great concern for us. The first is, we've already kind of alluded to, Senator Cosgrove alluded to the fact that we already have a requirement in law. There's been a suggestion made that that is not sufficient. We disagree with that. We've not heard any complaints from anyone. We've not heard from the diocese or any other groups of any specific hospitals that have not allowed in-person visitation. Granted, there have been virtual visitations, but in many instances, those are what are agreed to by the patients and others. And so it's a measure that was necessary, especially early on in the pandemic. We did hear, and there were examples nationally of some of these issues. Again, early on in the pandemic, we feel that's been resolved. This is also a federal requirement under federal law that we do this, and I'll get into that in a minute. Which leads me then to the second piece, which is a conflict with federal requirements. This particular legislation that is in place today, in terms of our obligations under state law, is a licensure requirement, but we also have requirements under our CMS certification. Participating in Medicare and Medicaid, we're required to comport with the conditions of participation for hospitals, which do require patient rights and patient access rights. And in fact, in 2020, CMS, which is why it's a little confusing why they're striking the language regarding compliance with federal law, CMS is actually contributing and reinforcing the importance of clergy visitation. They state in their 2020 guidance, facilities must ensure patients have adequate and lawful access to chaplains or clergy in conformance with the Religious Freedom Restoration Act and Religious Land Use and Institutionalized Persons Act. That is enforced by the Federal Office of Civil Rights, and that is the body that has been engaged in these issues that have come up over time and have protected patients' rights. With respect to, and so there we have a conflict between state and federal law. We're going to be asked and expected to comply with these federal guidance and regulations that are issued from time to time that may conflict with these standards that are being created under this new legislation. So moving on to then the third piece is about liability, and that's probably the biggest concern and most concerning piece here, creating a civil action. When you look at the words of this legislation, must be a compelling interest, must be a reasonable requirement, least restrictive, cannot be a substantial burden. These are all very vague and subjective words. Any lawyer worth his or her salt could make a case out of this. And just imagine in the midst of a public health emergency, healthcare workers being hailed into court to respond to what may be legitimate concerns and complaints, but this is a litigation minefield and creates a real concern for hospitals. The draft the introduced legislation recognized the significance of this liability by including immunity provision, which was stricken. So now here we are with a civil action and immunity now being removed. We did ask the patron to remove the immunity coupled with the removal of the civil action. So here we are now, in addition to the need to balance the important rights of patients to access clergy with keeping them and the patients and healthcare workers safe, we now have to face a potential liability there. So I won't go any further other than just say we appreciate the importance of this issue and the reason why it was brought forward to you. Patient access to clergy is something we take very seriously. It is an important duty for healthcare providers. Spiritual healing is very important. We take that seriously, just as seriously as we take our obligations to protect the safety of our patients in the course of patient care. So I respectfully request for you to oppose this. Thank you.
John, did real people come to you with this as a problem? Encountering it?
There have been, yes, during the pandemic,
Okay.
especially, Senator. But I would have to just respond that
Sure.
there is a documented case of this at Mary Washington Healthcare where a patient was denied access to their clergy member.
Okay.
And even though the federal law that was talked about, it's guidance, it's not law. And basically, hospitals may or may not follow it. There really isn't anything unless the patient then files a complaint with the HHS Office of Civil Rights.
All right. Scott?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm General Counsel for the Virginia Healthcare Association. I want to thank Senator Cosgrove. My microphone jumped off. I'll put that on in a second, but I want to. I'm so upset about this bill. It's a mighty divine intervention because you're right. Clergy is important not only to hospitals but to nursing homes too. And I want to thank Senator Cosgrove for hearing our concerns. First thing I wanted to do is take you back with 2 yellow sheets of paper to 2021. You're being asked to reverse the policy that every one of you put in place in 2021 with Senator Kagan's bill. And how you're being asked to do that and why we object, if you look on the substitute on page 10, lines 247 through 250, you're basically gutting everything you write, Senator, everything you did that year. So basically what this would say is the state law is going to direct nursing homes and, as Mr. Rawlins said, hospitals to have a visitation policy. And so if the CDC or CMS come out and say you have to wear a mask, you have to close your facility, you have to do whatever, then the facility is going to be in a catch-22. Do you abide by state regulation and state law saying this, or do you abide by what the feds are saying? And y'all were very specific in including that. That language on 247 through 250 was not in Senator Kagan's original bill, and y'all added it in a substitute that each of you voted for. So this is a perfect storm. We too value clergy, want that to happen, but we've got to have a balance as to process in the trenches. We are also very concerned about the private right of action, and that new lawsuit language is on the bottom of that page down at 265. I don't want to repeat what Mr. Rawlins said. I agree with it, and I would respectfully request that you recommend not reporting this bill. I'm going to cut my mic off and now put my phone which is dry rotting, by the way. They were going to a new building. So.
Things are lean around here.
I knew I shouldn't have given him the substitute, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Anybody else to speak against the bill? And understand, I think we've got the gist of it, and I suspect we all know where we are on it. So I don't want to cut anybody off that came here to speak, but just understand if you're against it, you're probably okay.
What?
Just taking the tenor of the committee. Anybody else? John, you want to wrap up?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the time. I know you have a very busy docket. Again, I think it's important. I think there's been some miscommunication as far as federal law. You know, federal law always supersedes state law. Basically, there have been documented instances where clergy has been denied, and there's really nothing that patient can do. There's no teeth in that prior legislation. So I'll leave it to the wisdom of the committee, and thank you for your time.
All right, I'll make a motion that we recommend passing this by indefinitely next Thursday. So.
And Senator Saslaw seconds it, I'm sure.
Yes.
All right, open the roll. Been a motion that we recommend to the full committee passing by indefinitely Senate Bill 925. Call the roll.
Senator Suderline? Senator Donovan?
I will have to PBI this bill, yes, and I can comment on that, but it's, if I may.
Sure,
Mr. Chair.
sure.
This is just such a conflicted situation. I obviously support the clergy being there and being there when somebody's dying, but there is such a complex web of litigation risk and variables that are on hospitals, I just don't see that this is the solution. So, yeah.
Go.
Senator Barker,
Aye.
Senator Saslaw,
Aye by proxy.
Senator Lewis,
Aye.
I vote yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your time, members of the committee.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Valiant effort.
0.
Next up, Senator Boysko.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have SB 1104, and between the time that I had this amendment made and now, I've also learned from DMAS and other stakeholders that we need to do it in a Section 1 bill instead of the way I have it written.
Senator Boysko, or Mr. Chair,
Yes, Senator Suderline.
I was just going to ask for the bill number, but this provides it. I'm good.
SB 1104.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And in concept, the bill as we're proposing would move it into a study bill. This is dealing with the state plan for Medicaid assistance services to provide a provision for the payment of medical assistance for violence prevention services. Last year, Senator Suderline had a bill that would have studied ways to support folks, and this is something similar. We know that every year millions of Americans have violent injuries and show up at hospitals, and the trauma experts know that people who show up injured need more than physical help, but they need emotional support and care. And these hospital-based violence intervention programs, they're called HVIPs, help combat the revolving door and help change people's behavior, help them provide the services that they need so that they can be successful. They are evidence-based, they're trauma-informed, they're culturally responsive, preventative services, and they reduce incidences of future violence, injuries and re-injury, and they promote trauma recovery and stabilization and improved outcomes. And what I understand is that DMAS needs to really work through this with the stakeholders. And so what I'm asking is that we turn this into a Section 1 bill by the time we get to full committee. The bill would direct DMAS to convene a work group to advise the board to how to design and implement the violence prevention services benefits, and specify that the work group include representatives from the department and violence intervention programs, medical providers, survivors of community violence, and other members deemed appropriate by the department. These services are currently provided here in Virginia to a limited degree through 2025 through our general fund dollars, through the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services. This would actually save the Commonwealth money by drawing down Medicaid dollars, and would be, the state share would end up being about a 43% cost, and the federal government of 57%. It is supported by the Medical Society of Northern Virginia, the Health Alliance for Violence Intervention, the Virginia Community Violence Coalition, and the Virginia Hospitals and Healthcare Associations. Davis Gammon is here, who could make some comments about his work and the support if you wish.
So do you want us to do anything with these amendments now, or do you?
My understanding is that we just need to.
In concept, by the time it gets.
That,
full, okay.
I think that is correct.
Okay, all right. All right, yeah, sure. Anybody who wants to speak, come on up.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Davis Gammon, and I'm from the Virginia Hospital and Healthcare Association. We support the legislation, and we really thank the patron and other stakeholders for bringing this and leading the way. There are currently 5 hospital-based violence intervention programs, or HVIPs, in the Commonwealth. They employ frontline intervention specialists, people who have lived experience, and they work with patients to help them recover and limit the possibility for retaliation, re-traumatization, and re-injury, which is a huge problem. So this legislation would help support those programs, would help us get on the road to to building sustainability for these programs, which would be a huge win. Right now, they're currently federally funded through the Department of Criminal Justice Services. And just to speak a little bit to the success of these programs, in just about 3 years of funding, our hospital-based programs have served over 2,400 survivors of community violence, which is a significant number of patients. The national reentry rate for survivors of community violence is 41%, around 41%. 60% of those individuals do not make it out of the hospital. They pass away. Over the 3 years that we've had funding, we've maintained a reentry rate of enrolled patients of less than 1%. They're not coming back to the hospital. They're not being reentered, and frankly, it's saving lives. So we're really proud of the programs that we've built. We thank, again, the Senator for bringing this forward. We hope that this work group will help bring all the stakeholders together to help build a structure for reimbursement for these programs and other programs like it that will really make a significant difference in the lives of Virginians across the Commonwealth. So we thank you all for hearing the legislation. We ask you to support it.
Changing this over to a study, is this going to cost any money? I mean, do we need to?
My understanding is there's not a fiscal impact that they could absorb it.
Okay. Anyone else wants to speak in favor of 1104? All right. Anybody want to speak against 1104? In concept, yeah. Okay.
And I have letters of support here from the Health Alliance for Violence Intervention for you all. Okay.
Give me one of those. I want to stick it in there. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
All right. There's been a motion, and did we get a second?
Sure.
Motion is seconded that we recommend to the full committee reporting 1104 with the understanding that it will be morphed into a Section 1 bill requiring a study by DMAS.
Right.
So, all those in favor, call the roll.
Senator Suderline?
Yes.
Senator Donovan?
Yes.
Senator Barker?
Aye.
Senator Saslaw?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Lewis?
Aye.
Ayes 5, no 0.
Great.
Thank you, Mr.
Senator
Chairman.
Boysko.
Uh-huh.
Next, we come to the pillion block of the docket.
Senator Favola has assured me that she has a very easy bill, and so I will yield to her.
All right, sure enough. Senator Favola, Senate Bill 827.
No, you won't regret it.
Oh, not
Thank
this
you.
one.
Okay, the emergency hospital departments, I'm actually taking by for the day.
Oh, okay.
Senate Bill 827.
It's bye for the day. Okay.
By for the day. So the only one I'm speaking to is the emergency department care management, and there is an amendment.
What's the number on that?
That is Senate Bill 926,
Gotcha, okay.
and I do have copies of the
Got an amendment?
Yeah. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd ask that you adopt this. What this amendment does is it basically exempts the Department of Health from following the administrative process and determining the criteria for the grants and issuing the grants. So
All
they
right.
just want to get it out quickly. They want to get the dollars out quickly.
Let's get 926 in its proper form as amended. So somebody make a motion.
So moved.
Moved and
Second.
Suderline seconds that we
Five-line amendment.
that we adopt the line amendments to Senate Bill 926. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, what this does is it sets up a grant program, and it's called an Emergency Department Care Management Program. It is a recommendation from the Joint Commission on Health Care. The intent is to issue grants to emergency departments with the sole intent of reducing the usage of the emergency room. We've got about 1% of our emergency room users are really high repeaters. And they come back and they come back and they come back. They take almost 10% of our visits, but yet it's only 1% of the catchment area. So what we want to do is encourage our emergency departments to actually figure out what the barriers to care are and to set up care management processes in the community. They have to look at social determinants. They have to look at what community-based services are available. The goal is to reduce emergency room visits. It's a great, nothing to not like. It's a great grant program.
All right. Any questions from the subcommittee on Senator Favola on 926?
No, sir.
No questions. All right. Anybody want to speak in favor of Senate Bill 926?
Everybody likes it.
Anybody, or they don't care. Anybody against Senate Bill 926? All right. Moved and properly seconded that we recommend to the full committee reporting Senate Bill 926 as amended. Call the roll.
Senator Suderline?
Yes.
Senator Donovan?
Yes.
Senator Barker?
Aye.
Senator Saslaw?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Lewis?
Aye.
Ayes 5, no 0.
All right, Senator Pillion, pick your.
All right. So let's turn our attention to Senate Bill 1414.
1414. All right.
And there should be a substitute in front of you. Rich.
Got one.
Be soon anyway.
All right, let's adopt that substitute, folks. Moved and seconded, substitute be adopted. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Substitute's in front of us.
All right, Mr. Chairman, with the substitute, the bill is pretty straightforward and an all-around good governance bill. As some of you may know, the opioid settlement funds have been distributed between localities, the Opioid Abatement Authority, and the state. What this bill does, it establishes the state share of any of the funds received from the opioid settlement or judgment shall be deposited into a Commonwealth Opioid Abatement and Remediation Fund. And this new fund would be restricted to efforts to treat, prevent, or reduce opioid use disorder, abate or remediate the opioid epidemic, or any approved purposes described in the settlement or judgment. And this basically just keeps us out of trouble so we don't jeopardize the remaining funds, settlement funds that are coming our way.
Okay.
Currently, in the state's direct share so far has been about $23.5 million. And Rich Swiker is here. He's been heavily involved with the AG's office under General Herring and now General Meares in the settlement to answer any kind of technical questions.
Okay. Any questions of Senator Pillion first? Okay. Who'd you say who's here?
Rich Swiker.
Rich, come on up.
Good afternoon. As Senator Pillion said, I'm Rich Schweiker. I'm Chief of the Attorney General's Consumer Protection Section. So we're the section that's been handling the opioid investigations from the consumer protection standpoint. So we've, as I'm sure you're all aware, we've negotiated a number of settlements, global settlements, multi-state settlements. We have a number of pending investigations as well as some pending cases. And the global resolutions of these settlements have involved a negotiation between the Commonwealth and our localities to decide how the money should be allocated. That resulted in a memorandum of understanding under which all 133 of Virginia's localities joined that memorandum of understanding, and it provides for how the funds will be allocated to each locality as well as to the state as well as to the Opioid Abatement Authority. The Opioid Abatement Authority receives the vast majority of the funds, about 55%. There's a state share that's 15% of those settlements, as well as some additional money that Virginia is receiving because we have been handling all these cases in-house and we did not hire outside lawyers who would take contingent fees. So the settlements generally provide that a certain amount or all of the funds must be used for opioid abatement and remediation. The MOU with the localities provides for the funds that just come to the state to go into our revolving fund, but that can be used for other purposes than abatement. So this is simply setting up a separate fund that the Commonwealth will have on the books that we can deposit the monies that's the state share to go into that fund for appropriation.
Any questions from Mr. Schweiker? No questions? All right. Anybody else want to speak in favor of 1414? That's just my next question. Is anybody out there want to stand up and actually say they're against it? Okay, good enough. Moved and seconded by somebody? Second. That we recommend reporting Senate Bill 1414 to the full committee. All in favor, open the roll.
Senator Suderline?
Yes.
Senator Donovan?
Yes.
Senator Barker?
Aye.
Senator Saslaw?
Aye by proxy.
Senator Lewis?
Aye.
Ayes 5, no 0.
All right, she's gone, or recommended to be gone.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
What else you got, Senator
Senate
Pulliam?
Bill 1415. Mr. Chairman, there should be some technical amendments before you.
Okay. We'll get those amendments out. All right, let's get these amendments before us. If somebody wants to make a motion, second.
Move the amendments.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we adopt the amendments to 1415. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, the bill as amended is in front of us.
All right, Mr. Chairman, thank you. As we all know, fentanyl is now a major driver of opioid overdoses and deaths, and according to BDH, in 2007, there were only 48 fatal fentanyl overdoses in the Commonwealth. In 2020,
No, it's okay. Is only the nasal form of naloxone going to be made over the counter?
that is my understanding. That
Understood.
Right. Not
Okay.
injectable, the nasal.
Okay,
And
thank
if
you.
you've ever tried,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Donovan, I know you know, you're very familiar with the nasal naloxone, but it's mostly, it's like, I would compare it to Afrin. It's very easy to administer. It's a squirt. If you don't have opioids on board, it does absolutely nothing to you. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions?
Senator Suderline,
Yes.
Senator Donovan,
Aye.
Senator Barker,
Aye.
Senator Saslaw,
Aye by proxy.
Senator Lewis.
Aye.
Ayes 5, no 0. Senator Suderline,
Yes.
Senator Donovan,
Aye.
Senator Barker, Senator Saslaw,
Aye by proxy.
Senator Lewis. Ayes 4, no 0, abstentions 1.
All right, then Senator Suderline, you're first on the list. If you want to do it. He's got what, 3, 2?
I got 2. All right, both of them are supposed to have witnesses. Do you want me to go there or stay here?
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I'll stay here then.
Sorry. I don't see the folks from ARC yet, so we'll do the other one, which is Senate Bill 1016. Mr. Chairman, this is a quick read of a bill. It discusses the regulation of furniture and then has exemptions, and it adds to the list of where we're not going to have this regulation any items of bedding or upholstered furniture that are 75 years or older. This came to me. It was some people thought that was already the case, and it is not. So that's why this bill's here.
I told the health department people when I saw it, I said, I thought you were trying to sell an old mattress.
A very old mattress.
All right, are there any questions from Senator Suderline on Senate Bill 1016? No questions? Anybody want to speak to 1016?
Senators, my name is Julie Henderson. I'm the Director of the Office of Environmental Health Services, and I oversee the bedding and upholstered furniture program at the Health Department, and we're in support of this bill.
And so typically, explain to me what you, explain to everybody here what we talked about today in the office.
Sure. So we have a regulation that includes the inspection of bedding and upholstered furniture, so new furniture, but also furniture that may be at a rental center, that someone comes in. Senator Donovan, you come in and rent a sofa or a chair, and then you return that furniture. And then Senator Suderline comes and rents that furniture again. That furniture has to be sanitized, so we're removing if it has bed bugs or any fluids or or anything on there that you may not want in your home that Senator Donovan has. And so I understand. And so in regulation, we have exempted antiques since I've been overseeing the program, and anyone else in the health department has been overseeing the program, and the Attorney General brought it to our attention last year that it needed to be in code. So that's why we're here today.
So it simply restates and legitimizes existing practice.
Exactly.
Okay, great. All right, bill's in front of us.
And assuming nobody wants to speak against it, I'm going to move to recommend reporting.
Second. Yeah. Been moved and properly seconded that we recommend reporting 1016 to full committee reporting 1016. All in favor, go ahead and call the roll.
Senator Suderline,
Yes.
Senator Donovan,
Aye.
Senator Barker, Senator Saslaw,
Aye by proxy.
Senator Lewis. Ayes 5, no 0.
No, they just got it. Okay, great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The next bill before our subcommittee is Senate Bill 945. This is something that we endorsed last year, both as the Senate in this committee and as the full Senate, and it ended up the House was less enthusiastic, but this bill is even scaled and more direct than last year. But the situation is we have these folks who have significant challenges that the Commonwealth has already decided that as state policy, we are going to make them eligible for utilizing these various funds, and these funds are then subdivided into 3 different sections. And in each of those sections, you don't just get the money. It's not like you get a pot of money, and it's also not transferable to the next year. So your situation for your family member might be that you have one of those in those 3 funds, and they would approve it, but it actually exceeds the amount that's in there when you are not going, your family member is not going to be using one of those other sections of the fund. Well, now it's just unfortunate for you. What this bill seeks to do is provide flexibility amongst those subfunds, and it still has to get approved by our state government folks and DMAS. And I hope we're able to get it done this year. And we've got some friends from the ARC that represent families that experience this situation again and again.
So, refresh my memory. What was the journey this bill took last year?
We endorsed it in our full committee. It made it through finance and went through the Senate, and then it got held up on the House side.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Senator Suderline on 945? All right. I understand you got some folks here. Anybody want to speak in favor of 945? Oh, there you are.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I came right on up in
Yeah.
case.
That's
Yeah,
good.
Tanya with the Arc of Virginia. Thank you to Senator Suderline. He's exactly right. This is about just giving people buying power and flexibility to be able to use these funds. So thank you.
Anybody else on 945? Yes, sir.
John Smino with the Disability Law Center of Virginia. Just echo Tanya's statements, and hopefully the House sees the light this year.
Good luck with that. Next.
Terry Morgan with the Virginia Board for People with Disabilities. We support this bill. Thank you, Senator Suderline, for your work over the past year, and we think it'll be a tremendous benefit to individuals with disabilities and their families.
Yes, ma'am.
Becky Bowers, Lanier with Virginia Association of Community Services Board, and we actively support this bill. Thank you very much, Senator Suderline.
All right. Anybody else on 945? Senate Bill 945. Anybody speak against 945 or have exactly or have reservations on 945?
Second.
All right. Did you get a motion? Was there a motion? Yeah. Okay. Been moved and properly seconded that we recommend to the full committee reporting Senate Bill 945. Call the roll.
Senator Suderline?
Yes.
Senator Donovan?
Aye.
Senator Barker?
Aye.
Senator Saslaw?
Aye.
Senator Lewis?
Aye.
Ayes 5, no 0.
All right. Senator Mason,
Sir.
come on down.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 1155, and we have an amendment. I move the amendment.
Second.
Moved, properly seconded. We adopt the amendment to 1155. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Bills and minutes in front of us.
So, Mr. Chairman, I started down a path of community-based service providers provide an extremely large amount of the services and initially I was approached talking about all the inspections that they have, and they'll have inspections of DBHCS, DSS, DMAS, the accreditation providers, and some of them are inspecting for the same things. So we started with this ambitious, if we could only, categorize them all with a crosswalk, and we ain't doing that. But what we came to is looking at, a lot of them are triennial licensing. So rather than yearly inspections, we'll do an inspection based upon the licensing period. If there's any issue, an inspection can be immediate. It will not, and the amendment makes it super clear this has nothing to do with the DOJ settlement, any responsibilities there. About 31% of the licensed providers, and 44% of the services are on triennial licenses. So we're just trying to put the inspection period commensurate with the licensing. And if there's a need or anything, situation or any complaint arises, it doesn't impact that or any provision.
Once every 3 years instead of once every year?
If you have a triennial license. If you have a yearly license, it would be once every year. Yes, sir, it'd be commensurate. But any issue, any question?
What's the breakdown on the number of licensees who are annual and triennial?
So of the providers currently licensed, 31% are on triennial, 461 out of 1486, and of the licensed services, 44% of them are triennial.
Okay.
So, it's a good question.
All right. Any questions of Senator Mason? Anybody in the audience want to speak on speak in favor of 1155?
Thank you, Mr.
Mindy.
Chairman, members of the subcommittee. Mindy Carlin on behalf of the Virginia Association of Community-Based Providers. We appreciate Senator Mason bringing this forward and urge your support.
Anyone else speak in favor of Senate Bill 1155? Yes, ma'am.
Jennifer Fedura with the Virginia Network of Private Providers. My members would be horrified if I didn't support this bill. And it is a good bill. I am going to say these words, though, just because I feel like I need to. And that is that I hope that we have good, clear understanding with the Department of Justice and the federal court. All of my long days sitting in status conferences on the DOJ settlement over the last 12 years, the judge seems very committed to making absolutely certain with data and reports and you name it, that the state does not fall back when the DOJ settlement is concluded. I desperately hope this goes through. Don't get me wrong, but I would hate to send a message to the court passing a bill that lightens the oversight and inspection that they would like to have probably doubled. That's on you all to figure out with the state and with the Attorney General's office or whoever. Yes, and this hopefully does that, but it also says that at the end of the DOJ settlement, we're going to make some changes. I don't know what message that sends. So I don't know, and I'm not trying to kill Senator Mason's bill. I love it. I know.
You're speaking in favor, remember?
Yeah, I am. I
going to say, with friends like that, you don't.
But I don't want to risk. I don't want to do something that isn't well considered. So I know you will well consider it before it gets to the floor, and make sure that everybody is on board. That's all I'm asking.
It seems to me that this amendment is pretty.
And, Mr. Chairman, that was the goal of the amendment, to say,
well,
hey.
I understand that.
Yeah, Senator Donovan. Uh-huh.
I think this is really smart. I looked at this too and thought, when you talk to these small businesses, they literally have to close their business for a day or two to accommodate the inspection. And the inspections are not just one, it's a series of them all year long. It's very onerous and they are repetitive. And so it would be nice if we could clean that up, because these are people who are trying to serve the community and keep individuals out of institutions, which is the ultimate goal of the settlement that we have. But this is really important. This gives us all of the tools we need. If you're going to license somebody every 3 years, you can inspect them every 3 years. If they require an annual inspection, we can license them annually. But I think that this adds just a tiny little measure of common sense for the business community when they're trying to provide those services in the community.
So under your bill, so if somebody's having some issues,
right,
they can inspect them annually if they decide that's necessary.
Any complaint, any issue, any problem can be inspected immediately.
Right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And by the way, the administration's been great to work with on this and many other things. And I know I realize they have no position on the bill, but we're going to continue down the path of how many of these are similar inspection requirements that once you do it for you, we can make sure you know they're cool and you can do the differentials.
Okay.
So that's kind of an ultimate goal here.
All right. Anybody speak against Senate Bill 1155?
Kind of got a 50-50 on my list.
All right, it's been moved
Second.
and properly seconded that we recommend to the full committee reporting Senate Bill 1155 as amended. Call the roll.
Senator Suderline?
Yes.
Senator Donovan?
Yes.
Senator Barker?
Aye.
Senator Saslaw?
Aye.
Senator Lewis?
Aye.
Ayes 5, noes 0.
There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee.
All right, Senator Donovan, you're next on the list if you want to go.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You certainly may.
Thank you. I'm sorry, this pile of papers is very messy.
It's like Senator Bolus and butter.
I'm going to start with Senate Bill 1232.
Yeah. We've done a lot of them.
Chairman, I have a substitute for Senate Bill 1232. Thank you.
I'm sorry. What? I'm sorry. I was
Substitute 1232.
Okay.
You were listening.
Yep. All right. And did we get the substitute in front of us?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sorry, I was out. All right. So go ahead, Senator Donovan.
This is a technical substitute, just really working language a little bit more elegantly, but it does not change the intent of the bill. Can we act on the substitute?
Yes.
Okay.
All in favor of adopting the substitute?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, this is a response to some information I've come across over the past year, looking at our state hospitals, our state mental health hospitals, and some of the reports that we have had about serious issues and deaths while in the hospital or after the hospital. And it came to my attention that the code does not really reflect best practices for defining when these should be evaluated. And indeed, they have been reported as either expected death or uninspected death. That is not really a medical term that we use at all. And I think we have a serious responsibility to the citizens of Virginia that if somebody's admitted in one of our hospitals, every death that happens there, we should investigate. This is not an autopsy bill, this is investigation, that every one of those should be investigated, and it should include patients who indeed are in those hospitals and then transferred to another, maybe for acute care, and shortly thereafter die. So this is, just really taking out kind of the language of, oh, go ahead and this was expected. I don't even know what that means in a medical term. And so it's just really kind of modernizing and making sure that we can look at the citizens of Virginia and say, we know we have a foolproof process by which we look at every death that is in there and make sure it would be investigated by the medical examiner's office. They would look at it. They would not be required to do an autopsy.
Does it cost any money?
I do not. Do I have? I think I can't remember if there's a budget amendment on this or not. If we think there's, to my knowledge, it does not cost. I think I did put in a holder just in case.
Oh yeah, they'll let us know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. Anybody to speak on Senate Bill 1232, the substitute? Nobody has an opinion. Anybody against Senate Bill 1232? Any questions for? Well, let's see. Is there any questions for Senator Donovan? Any other questions for Senator Donovan amongst the committee? Nope. Okay.
I move that we recommend report.
Second.
Been moved and properly seconded that we recommend to the full committee reporting Senate Bill 1232 amendment in the nature of a substitute. Open the rolls.
Senator Suderline?
Yes.
Senator Donovan?
Yes.
Senator Barker?
Aye.
Senator Saslaw? Senator Lewis?
Aye.
Ayes 5, noes 0.
All right, very good.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Now I have Senate Bill 1276.
Yes.
Which does have a budget amendment attached to it, and this is a little bit of a different story. Mr. Chairman, this speaks to an issue in the state of Virginia. We have jails and prisons. Jails are run by the sheriffs in most cases. And in every jail where, and we've watched this over the last year, we've heard over the last many years, where we've heard stories about deaths in jails and prisons that has been disturbing to this body. And we've looked at ways to kind of drill down on that a little bit more clearly. The jails have put in place a process by which every person that dies in a jail has an autopsy, and they have an investigation. Prisons are a little bit different and run by DOC, and in the DOC, they do an investigation. They have an investigative team that's like a police unit in DOC, and they investigate, but not always are autopsies done. And this is really presented with some unusual circumstances, particularly liability for the state of Virginia. When there is a death in a prison if you don't have an autopsy, you have a hard time really understanding causation. And there's a unique situation where there was a death in a prison with a very violent individual, and it was thought that it had something to do with the restraint that was involved with that individual, and testing afterwards actually revealed it was a medical condition. It was completely different. And so this is an opportunity for us to really have clear evidence one way or the other about what the deaths are. It really only results in what best count, this has been looked at very carefully, is that it would be 20 additional autopsies a year. It's not all of them. We have I'm sorry to say, about 60 deaths in jails in Virginia annually and about 110 deaths in prisons. And most all of those already have autopsies are fully investigated. But for this remaining 20, it's really just to kind of set again in place what we do in medicine, which is a checks and balances that is consistent across all cases. And as a result, we don't leave any stone unturned. So, Mr. Chairman, that's the bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Senator Donovan on Senate Bill 1276? Senator Donovan, you say the sheriffs or the jails do this.
Yes, sir.
Are they statutorily required to do it? Or
they're not, but their board,
Just
their
a
governance
policy.
board has taken up that policy. I don't think it always was the policy, but they investigate every death, and with that investigation, an autopsy report is required. And so that is all already funded now. We have significant duress in our medical examiners in the state of Virginia with empty slots that need to be filled, and I would not want to add any burden to them. And I have to say, I believe actually I do need to propose an amendment to this bill. I'm sorry, it's all coming back to me, where it has a delayed effect for 6 months. The governor has put in his budget funding to offset that. Our medical examiners, we have 8 slots empty, I think, out of not a very high number. Maybe it's a significant, understaffing. And so to ask them to do this before we have the opportunity to raise, to fill all those spots would be difficult. So it would be a 6-month, I propose the amendment to delayed enactment clause for 6 months, January 1, 2024.
Second. All in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, so the bill as amended is in front of us. Anybody else to speak on 1276, one way or the other? Oh, yep, come on up.
Good afternoon, committee members. Jerry Fitz with the Virginia Department of Corrections. We don't have a specific position on the bill. I will say that Senator Donovan has outlined very well what the challenges are. That delta that exists between those autopsies that are done and those that are not performed does provide some challenges for the department. I know there's someone also here from the Office of the Attorney General who may speak more so, but just to say that we certainly, this is a bill that certainly we do think will help our process at the department.
Let me ask you a question. If an inmate has multiple stab wounds, do you need to do an autopsy?
So I would answer that question as I would imagine that's an obvious way that the inmate passed away. I think that one of the questions would be, and certainly I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to attempt to be one, but if there are any issues surrounding, if there are questions about any negligence or things like that, I think an autopsy would certainly help the department out in terms of having some sort of backing as to why, if there are any other causes there as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Senator Donovan.
To respond to Senator Sasslaw, here's the thing. When you have a variable process, you have variables you can't control, and you're going to make a mistake. If you have a standardized process, so out of 180 deaths a year in jails and prisons, there's just 20 that we don't do. And the idea is that when you use subjective or physical, you might do an autopsy on that individual and find out that there are significant drugs that are contributing to the violence, and so there are variables. But then you have to defend that in court, or Virginia has to defend that in court. And so the point is, why are we leaving a gray open area when we can build a process that leaves no questions?
Bill, I was just curious.
Yeah.
So you're saying that in addition to the actual immediate cause of death, there may be other relevant things that an autopsy would disclose?
And I'm just saying it's hypothetical. Is there the possibility is there the likelihood that autopsies are and will be done on people whose cause of death we already know? Yes. But in medicine, you build a really good process, and it is that process that corrects for the human error that we are all prone to. And so that's my only point.
Inmates that die that are in your possession, what is the usual reason? Or what are, that you know of? Is it one that stands out in particular?
I don't have one that stands out in particular, Senator. I think that natural causes, a lot are of natural causes. However, there are those situations where we may believe that there are natural causes, and then the autopsy may present something very different. As the senator said, there could be other issues that, just from the outside looking in, looks like one situation has occurred, but there could be other factors that attributed to that death as well.
And I do have to clarify, I think I've misspoken. There are 20 deaths a year that are unusual circumstances where autopsies are not done, but a lot of inmates are released to care because they have a terminal illness. Those obviously don't have an so there are sane parameters on here, but I think that there's a little bit of a delta between what's obvious and what we might end up needing to have legal advice on.
Anybody else on 1276?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm from the Attorney General's office. My section defends the DOC when they're sued. And I'll tell you that inmates are very litigious. Their families are very litigious when they pass away in prison. I'm not saying that to be judgmental. It's just a fact. I think we handled 700 cases for the DOC in 2021, and I think it's gone up by at least
Good Lord,
60.
700?
Yes, sir. It's a lot of litigation. And Senator Donovan mentioned when someone dies in a care facility, when someone is ill and they are transported to the emergency department, often if they pass in the prison, the ME's office doesn't want to do an autopsy. The problem is DOC will get sued. It's almost inevitable. DOC, the Commonwealth, the taxpayers, get sued. And if we don't have an autopsy to say, well, this person had, advanced hepatitis and, breast cancer, and this is why they died, then we don't have a tool that we could use to defend the lawsuit, the DOC, and the taxpayer funds.
What's the average age of an inmate, if you had to guess?
They're getting older. I can tell you the inmate population is aging. Absolutely.
In the 40s, in the 50s?
Oh, no, I would say 50s.
50s. Oh, wow. Is that right?
Yeah. And, folks, if someone is stabbed, if an inmate is stabbed, there will be an autopsy because it's a homicide.
Okay.
So that will happen regardless, because someone's going to prosecute it, the Commonwealth attorney in that applicable jurisdiction. It's when they pass and there hasn't been violence and they pass at the hospital that we're sort of in trouble, because we need to be able to say this is why this person died. DOC did not make a mistake, because they're not necessarily going to sue the doctor whose name will be on the death certificate, by the way, although they may. That may also be a defendant. They're going to sue Director Clark and all the medical staff. So that's why we support it.
Do you have, just professional curiosity, do you have law firms that kind of specialize in this, in frequent flyers? I mean,
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh.
And one of them just got a $4 million verdict on an inmate death case.
Holy smokes.
And really, we believe that no one did anything wrong. But in any event, do you settle that case for $360,000 when really we don't think that the medical staff or the correctional staff did anything wrong? Well, now we know that we can end up with a $4 million verdict in Richmond Federal Court. So those are the stakes. You can end up with these enormous verdicts, or we can have.
Determine $4 million future earning capacity.
I think so.
And he said with a chuckle.
Is another good reason to have an autopsy. So if undisclosed cancer or blockages, then you're probably wouldn't have lived. Anyway.
All right. Any other questions on 1276? Okay. The bill as amended is in front of us.
I move that we recommend report of the amended bill.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and properly seconded that we recommend to the full committee reporting Senate Bill 12776 as amended. Call the roll.
Senator Suderline?
Yes.
Senator Donovan?
Aye.
Senator Barker?
Aye.
Senator Saslaw?
Aye.
Senator Lewis?
Aye.
Ayes 5, no 0.
All right. I think our last bill is Senator Barker's, 1344. You want to do it?
Yeah. I just need to.
Grab a mic.
All right. Okay, this is Senate Bill 1344. We do have a substitute.
All right, let's get the substitute in front of us.
Second.
Properly seconded, we adopt the amendment in the nature of a substitute for 1344. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. All right. Bill substitutes in front of us.
All right. What this we've had this type of bill the last couple of years. This is to take the this is dealing with the health department and the city of Alexandria. What we have is a system for the health department operations that the state is the entity that controls things, and there are health departments that are, in some instances, a single jurisdiction, but in many instances, multiple jurisdictions there, and so that's part of the reason for having this be a state responsibility. However, there's been actions been taken in 4 of the 5 health departments in Northern Virginia to have them be semi-independent from all the connections with the state health department. They still have to be providing all the basic services. They still have to be providing all the information that is provided in terms of their operations and everything. What happened was that I think it was Arlington County that first got approval to be operating locally its health department. The second action that was taken was Fairfax County which provided services for not just Fairfax County but also Fairfax City and Falls Church, received approval to serve those 3 jurisdictions locally within Northern Virginia. And then more recently, I guess a couple of years ago, we approved took action to approve independent or semi-independent operation of the health departments in Loudoun County, and also for the Prince William County plus the cities of Manassas and Manassas Park. Those are somewhere in the they have not implemented all of those yet, and they're working on doing that. But we now have a proposal here for Alexandria to do the same thing, and so that all 5 health departments within Northern Virginia would be on a par with each other in their operations there. And that's all there is to this bill. Then we set it up so that all 5 health department operations would be locally operated.
I don't think so. Have we had this before? Did we have this before?
We did not have this one before. We most recently had a bill came forward for Loudoun County.
Okay.
And then after Loudoun County had put that bill in, then Prince William said, we want to join with them. And so Prince William then got added onto that bill and they serve not just Prince William County, but the two cities of Manassas and Manassas Park. And previously, there was action was taken for Arlington and Fairfax.
Gotcha.
And so what this would do would round it out so that all 5 health departments in Northern Virginia are operating at the same way.
Any questions of Senator Barker? Anybody against 1344?
I move to be reported.
Moved and seconded that we recommend to the full committee reporting 1344 as an amendment in the nature of a substitute. Call the roll.
Senator Suderline,
Yes.
Senator Donovan,
Yes.
Senator Barker,
Aye.
Senator Saslaw,
Aye.
Senator Lewis,
Aye.
ayes 5, noes 0.
I believe that completes the docket for today. All right,
We did our job.
we are adjourned.
But you got to come back.
The room
You
thinned
got to
out
come
a
back